Hi folks, welcome back to the channel, and in this video I'm going to be showing how I generate cold smoke using an alternative method. Now my go-to method, if you've seen any of my other videos, is generally using the ProQ smoke generator, either the original or the artisan. And for that they use dust, wood dust, very fine particulate wood dust. Now the method I'm using uses chips, small chips, very mini chips. Now in a ProQ smoke generator they generally don't work, but in this method they do, and let me show you that method. Now later on in the video I'm going to show you how I adapt this method to make it a true cold smoker. And the reason I say that is because the method that I'm going to be showing you in a bit is or does generate a little bit of heat. Not much, so if you were doing this in winter you wouldn't need to adapt it, but if you were doing it around the margins of acceptable temperature levels, then this method can get you out of the sticky situation you might find yourself if you're generating too much heat to do cold smoking. So I'm going to show you that at the end. I hope you like it. If you do, give the video a big thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, and in the meantime let me show you how I do this.
I am here at my stacker smoker and I'm going to be trying out a new cold smoke generator, and basically all this is a large sieve, and I bought this particular one from a Chinese supermarket. I mean, it's massive, isn't it? And I've just pushed the center up here so that it's got this kind of channel around it, and we've got this nice fine mesh. Now obviously if I light it here it's going to go in both directions, so what I want to do is sort of create a natural barrier. Okay, so that should do it. There we go. And then what I'll do is I'll just light one end of this and we'll see how it goes. To be doing something right, so that it's lifted off this base. Even though this base has got holes in it, I want to use something to lift it off, so I've got this little chip pan here. I might have to go over to the side here to do this. Cool, that's cherry dust, cherry chip. That is absolutely beautiful. So there we are, that's nicely situated in the center, so that shouldn't burn across there. No great temperature coming off that at all. No, that's going to be perfect. Okay, let's shut this up and we'll come back to this in about half an hour and see whether or not we need to light it. Right, it's been about half an hour. Let's have a quick look inside here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that seems to be smouldering away really nicely. Let's leave it a little longer and see how it gets on. I think what's really good is it hasn't caught this bit here, and there's not a lot of heat coming off that. I can feel some, but not a great deal.
So although the heat I was experiencing wasn't that great, it could be an issue if you were operating at quite high temperatures, quite close to the acceptable level that you would expect when cold smoking. So that's why I've got this method I'm going to show you at the end of the video. Anyway, let's crack on.
Ordinarily I would have this in the old smoker box down here, so it will come up through the smoke spreader, but and that would take a little bit of heat out as well. But that doesn't feel warm at all. Okay, great. Let's shut this up and we'll come back later. Look at that. Well, that is burning really successfully. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So, I mean, if that's 2.5 hours round to there, I reckon we got about 6 hours worth of smoking here. We're just about halfway, so that'll be halfway in about 3. Yeah, I reckon about 6 hours. Perfect for a little block of cheese or a lightly smoked salmon. This is cherry wood, by the way, and we do these very fine chips on our website. Well, I'm going to claim this one as a success. Well, it's quite late in the evening now, and I think you'll agree that's probably got about another hour or so to go. Let me just pull that out so you can see it. Look at that, still smoking really nicely. Beautiful. We'll leave that in there, let it do its thing. So you can see in this image here the burn has completed, and there's only a small amount of this cherry chip that is left unburnt around the top edge. And it's an interesting phenomenon, because whenever we use cherry chip in a ProQ smoke generator, it consistently goes out. It really doesn't like to smoulder. But when you have enough of it in this configuration, in this sieve, then there is enough heat in that combustion process to keep that sustaining, and it carries on smouldering. It was great to see that it didn't flare up, because that's a real concern when you're doing something inside a wooden smoker. You certainly don't want any flare-ups. Now, I also noticed that because it burns at a slightly higher temperature than the dust, you can see what's left after I remove all the ash from the sieve is a very, very clean burn. So there's no kind of like black tarry residue left on the sieve. Now, this is indicative of a slightly hotter temperature when you burn, so this might be an issue if you're on the margins of keeping the temperature within the cold smoker below 30 degrees Celsius. So this is probably a technique that I will adopt in the depths of winter, when perhaps we've got a sub-zero temperature, or we're very close to zero, so that we don't mind about adding a little bit of heat into the cold smoker, so that we end up with a finished temperature well below 30 degrees Celsius, because we do not want to exceed that. And typically, you know, I always talk about this temperature in a cold smoker being below 30 degrees Celsius, but ideally I like it a lot lower than that. So this shows that the temperature of this chip when it burns is slightly hotter. So it will add a little bit more temperature to a cold smoker of this particular size. If you had a bigger enclosure, that wouldn't necessarily be an issue. Well, it's true to say that chips do burn a little hotter than dust, and because of that you need to take extra precautions. And one way that I've managed to achieve this is by using a smoke pipe to transmit the smoke from where it's being created into the cold smoker through a pipe, and that allows that heat to dissipate out through the walls of the pipe as it travels along into the cold smoker. By the time it reaches the cold smoker, temperature is no longer an issue. Well, here I'm using a flexible aluminium pipe, and this is a flue pipe for a cooker hood extractor typically, and I've attached it to a plastic 4-inch pipe which I can slot straight into my biltong box. And you can see here the mini incinerator I'm using, with the sieve just sitting in the top of it, and the flue pipe connected loosely over the lid of the incinerator. Now, the way this particular setup works is because the sieve sits on top of the incinerator, it doesn't sit within it. It fits really nicely, so the lid just clips straight on top of that. So all we need to do really here is light the chips, and once they're lit, we can pop the lid straight on and follow the smoke up through the pipe into the cold smoker. Now, it's interesting to note that because I noticed that this particular setup does generate some heat in the chips, if you are working at the upper
temperature margins of a cold smoker. This can get you out of a real sticky situation by assisting in removing that excess heat from the smoke by making it travel through a pipe. And as it does so, the heat in that smoke that's inherent in that smoke caused by the combustion process will actually leave through the walls of that pipe off to atmosphere, and it will let the smoke drift into the cold smoker without any heat. And now that's what you want in a cold smoker. You just don't want the heat, you just want the smoke. And you can see here the smoke coming through the pipe into the cold smoker. One great advantage of using my built-on box, so you can see straight through it. Now, like any avid cold smoker, there is no way that I could let this go without putting something in there. So I had a round of camembert and some cheddar cheese. This was Cornish cheddar actually, which is really nice with a bit of smoke. And I popped those in the smoker just to give them a light smoking for a couple of hours. Well, I hope you liked the video. If you did, give us a big thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this. And I will see you on the next smoky video, folks. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.